So I got a lot of questions and comments from you guys after my last video, which I'm going to try to answer and respond to in this video while making an authentic pizza napoletana. Let's do this. So in my last video, I talked about feeling down and feeling a little bit depressed during this pandemic and during this lockdown. And since then, I've been really just trying to lean in and do the things that bring me joy and just kind of make me happy. So I've been listening to less podcasts and listening to more music and trying to watch films instead of just watching endless YouTube. Just things like that just I don't know, just make me feel happy, I guess. And one of the things that makes me really happy is traveling, and one of the best parts of traveling is the food that you get to experience. And since for various reasons, including the obvious ongoing pandemic, traveling isn't really an option for me right now. So I'm going to try to recreate as authentically as possible one of my favorite meals. So today I'm going to make an authentic Neapolitan style pizza. I love this style of pizza. It's originally from the city of Naples, although some people believe it was brought to Naples by Marco Polo from China along with pasta. We'll just say it's Italian for now because this is most synonymous with the city of Naples. After my last video, I got a ton of questions and comments. A bunch of you subscribed, and I don't know what the heck happened, but welcome if you're new to the channel. So I wanted to answer some of the questions that I got in my last video or some of my other videos, and just talk about some of the comments that have been coming through. There was a lot of questions, but they all kind of fall into a few central themes. So I'll talk about the ones that were most commonly asked, the FAQs, if you will. Actually, I've been talking about work quite a bit in the last few videos. And one of the questions that's come up is, what do I do for a living? And that question scares me. I'll tell you why. Because that's the kind of question that sends me into an existential crisis. What do you mean? What do I do for a living? What does it mean to do something for a living? Is what I do for work the thing that I do for a living? If so, how sad is that? Anyway, I've had a lot of jobs in my day. I've been a camera salesman, I worked as a telemarketer, market researcher, Spanish language translator. I did construction for only one day because my dad fired me at the end of the day. I worked as an editor, I've worked as a videographer, I've worked at a men's fashion magazine, I've worked for a online car seller company. And now, more recently, over the last 2 years, I've worked as a digital product manager. And if you know what that is, then do you mind explaining it to me? Because I've been doing it for 2 years and I have no clue what that means. The next question comes from Eduardo Garcia, who asks 3 questions really. One of them is, have you ever thought about going back to El Salvador? Have you ever been the victim of racism in Canada? And do you think that war trauma from parents can be transmitted to children that never lived them? Okay, some really, really heavy questions there. So let's just start with the first one as I'm continuing to knead this dough. Will I ever go back and live there permanently? I don't know. I'd love to go back and invest in El Salvador in some capacity and be a part of some sort of business or organization that just helps improve the situation or helps bring about economic change and opportunity for the people that are there that need it the most. I think El Salvador is a country with a lot of investment potential. So if you're out there and you have money, I would definitely encourage you to consider investing in El Salvador in some capacity. Yeah, but until I have that kind of money to be able to sort of make a large investment in something that creates opportunities for the people of El Salvador, I don't know that I would be, I'll be spending the majority of my time there. I'd love to go back again. There's still more stories that I want to tell from El Salvador. But at the same time, there's other places in the world that I gotta go see. The second question, Oh, and I'm getting like flour in my hair and stuff. The second question is a little bit heavier. Have I experienced racism in Canada? So I can think of one example where somebody said something really racist to my face. The larger issue I think in Canada isn't that there's like out there in your face kind of racism. It's more like the systemic issues that exist. So most like Latin kids in Canada, the majority are not going to graduate high school, the majority are not going to go on to university, and that just perpetuates a cycle where I'm now, the further up I go in my career, the less I experience the diversity that I grew up with. So the less I see the black kids from my neighborhood, the less I see of Latin kids, the further I go up in my career. And that to me is a bigger problem than like encountering like overt racism out in the street. That's less something that happens. It does happen, and I think Canadians kind of have their heads in the sand a little bit about that happening. But it's definitely out there. But there are systemic issues that I think we need to address both within our community and within the Latin community, and just really focus on making sure that we get educated so that we can break through and in the next generation be more visible in the corporate world, be more visible in the arts, be more visible in all the other places where we are drastically underrepresented here in Canada. And that's all I got to say about that. I got a lot more to say about that, but I could go on for a long time about that one. Eduardo asked one last question, and that was about the trauma of war. So if you watched my documentary, a lot of Salvadorans left El Salvador in the 80s during a very violent and contentious civil war. And that, I think, 100% results in a trauma that is maybe unspoken, and mental health only became a cool thing to talk about in like the last 5 years. I mean, imagine having to just pick up your stuff, whatever you can put on a plane, pack it up, and then move to another country where you don't have a job, you don't speak the language, you don't know the culture, and then trying to raise kids. It's a lot. It's a lot for our parents to deal with, and I don't think people understand that. I don't even think they really understood the toll that kind of stuff took on them, but that's the immigrant story. That's part of the story of many immigrants in North America and Canada and the United States and many other parts of the world. Okay, I think we're ready to start partitioning this guy out. Okay, so our initial dough is in a pretty good spot right now. We just need to now let it rest and rise and do all that magic that happens inside for about 2 hours. So I'm just going to cover it with a damp cloth, and hopefully in 2 hours. There's still more work. No pizza yet, but getting closer. In the meantime, I can answer some of your questions. All right, got my fresh espresso. All right, questions. Where were we? This next one is a comment that came up a few times on my documentary that I kind of wanted to respond to because, anyway, let's just go through it. The comment is, interesting short, hated the Mexican introduction. We are not Mexican. Part of learning your identity is learning about our music and culture. Then another person commented, the intro Mexican music ruined it. Sorry, bro.
Soy muy hombre, nací en El Salvador, tierra bendita y sagrada en el amor. A ti te canto con toditita mi alma, diciendo que te llevo dentro del corazón.
That song is actually a song called Corazón Salvadoreño by Héctor Antonio. And the reason I chose it is because it says, I'm Salvadorian, which is essentially what the movie is about. And then it goes on to just beautifully list all like these beautiful places in El Salvador, and he's just very soulfully singing about it. Now, the reason some people might take offense to that or just be upset about that is because it's a mariachi song, and that's a genre that's more commonly associated with Mexico and not El Salvador. And a lot of the people who made that comment mentioned that I should have used cumbia, which, ignoring the fact that I used that style of music later in the film, it's just cumbia is a Colombian music style. So whether I'm using cumbia from Colombia or mariachi music from Mexico, neither of which is native to El Salvador. Secondly, El Salvador is a diverse country that has many musical influences. It would be ignorant to say that our culture doesn't have a strong Mexican influence just because of the nature of our proximity to that country. This whole hatred between El Salvador and Mexico is just another example of how just like bullshit nationalism just distracts from the real issues of capitalism, of imperialism, of jingoism that have throughout our history divided our countries in Latin America, from Mexico all the way down to the southern coast of Argentina. And it keeps our people oppressed, not just back in our homelands in El Salvador, Mexico, Bolivia, wherever, but here in the United States, in North America, abroad, wherever the Latin American diaspora lives, we are just being oppressed and divided when we remain divided amongst ourselves. And like, to those of you who still want to keep this unnatural rivalry between El Salvador and Mexico going, I want you to consider these words from one of my favorite books, The Motorcycle Diaries, written by a young Che Guevara. We believe, and after this journey more firmly than ever, that the division of Latin America into unstable and illusory nations is completely fictitious. We constitute a single mestizo race which from Mexico to the Magellan Straits bears notable ethnographical similarities, and so, in an attempt to rid myself of the weight of small-minded provincialism, I propose a toast to Peru and to a united Latin America. Let's give this thing a try. Didn't quite rise up on the crust as much as I would have liked. That's probably because I don't have a 900-degree pizza oven. Not quite the taste of Italy, I guess, but as close as I'm gonna get in my apartment while I'm locked down. I enjoyed making this pizza. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm gonna eat this and then start editing, I guess. As always, I love answering your questions and comments, so drop one in the comments section and maybe I'll answer it in a future video. Until next time, bon appetit, I guess.
Sincero y sin pretensión, porque a mi tierra querida la llevo dentro del corazón.